Okay, so we left off yesterday talking about race, and it was an area where I took an opportunity to remind you that race is something that you cannot change. You're born with it, it's how you physically look, it's the biological traits that are in your DNA. It's not something that can be modified. But culture is something that if I wanted to change my culture, I could. If I wanted to change how I dress, I wanted to change my religion, if I wanted to change my language. Those are all things that are part of my culture that I could end up changing. But my race, like I am a Caucasian or a white, there's no way for me to change from a Caucasian to become Asian. It's just not possible. So we took notes on race at the end of class yesterday. So moving on to the next note slide, it's about symbols or symbolism. It's a word or a shape or a color like flag or some kind of sign that stands for something else. So I have on here in the upper left-hand corner, that would be the flag of Canada. I have, when we talk about Talmadge, we are the Talmadge Blue Devils. Kent State, even though it's not one of my favorite universities, would be recognized for the Golden Flashes, and the United States flag represents our states in the 13 original colonies. So these are all things that are symbols, a word, a shape, a color that stands for something else. This next one is a rather interesting idea, and sometimes we might think of it as somebody who thinks that they're better than somebody else. Maybe they think they have a better, like they have a high ego, like they think highly of themselves. This is called ethnocentrism. Now, ethnocentrism is seeing differences in another culture as being inferior. So I could exhibit signs of ethnocentrism if I was looking at another culture and considering what they maybe eat as their main form of food, and I think it's disgusting. And because they eat that for their food, I think less of them. So, for an example, some of the Inuits, the people that live up in the far part of Alaska, they often will eat whale blubber. We never here in Ohio eat whale blubber, and so that seems extreme to me. And I think, oh man, I would not be able to do that. And we have so much better food choices than they do. And that's me exhibiting ethnocentrism, thinking that we are better than them. Domestication is something that we see often in many different forms in our society. Driving around in Ohio, you see domestication when you look at farms where they have either animals that are their cattle or even they've planted crops that are part of domestication. Domestication is the growing of a plant or a taming of an animal by a person for their own use. So we would have the cows so we could get the milk. We would plant corn so we end up with more corn. It's the controlling and growing of plants and animals, domestication. A great example of domestication would be an animal if you had a pet. So a dog, a cat, a pig, a goat, those would all be examples of domestication. Agriculture. Now, there's two different forms of agriculture. The very first one, subsistence, on the left-hand side, subsistence has that prefix sub. And when we talked about subduction, it was one plate going under another. That sub meaning under. Well, while subsistence agriculture is the type of agriculture where farmers don't grow enough food to sell. They only grow enough for themselves and their families. They're growing below what they need to be able to make money. They're just growing enough to feed their family. Now, the opposite of subsistence is commercial agriculture. And obviously, when we think of commercial, we think of selling things, even advertising them. And this type of agriculture is where farmers produce enough that they can sell it for a profit. They can sell their food to make a profit, make some money. Subsistence, only enough to feed myself and my family. Commercial, I have a surplus. Now I'm able to sell it to make a profit. Two types of agriculture. Civilization is the next definition. And a civilization is when a culture becomes highly civilized. Okay, or specialized. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, They now have agriculture. They are able to trade to get things that they need. People inside that community have specialized jobs. There's teachers, there's merchants, there's going to be a ruler, there will be priests, there will be artisans, people who are creating the things that are being sold. They would have a form of education for their society. And they are going to then build it into a big, large city, or maybe have multiple cities that are controlled by the same ruler. That is a civilization. When a culture is highly specialized, it is known as a civilization. We will stop there with our particular listening to notes. That would finish off your notes for you on culture. Please then go now and do numbers 7 through 12 on your vocabulary. So go back to the document that I left you yesterday and do numbers 7 through 12 on your vocabulary. Remember, the word bank at the top is a great resource. If you are having a hard time figuring out a definition, you can always Google it. Hope you have a wonderful rest of the day.